basically insane.
All right, so I want to ask
Well, from God's perspective, of course that's the case. It is the height of intellectual instability to decide to engage a process that only results in further self-destruction. We call that on earth when it's severe. We put a person who does that on earth in an asylum or in some kind of mental health program in order to correct their behaviour, not realising that for the majority of us, from God's perspective, we are engaging this behaviour every single moment almost of every single day.
Yeah. All right. I want to. You made some really important points in what you were just saying, and I want to clarify a couple of things so that they're really clear.
Yeah.
Basically, you're saying that sin is created when we break the law, when we act in disharmony with the law. Is that what you said?
No, I said even the intention to break the law is a sin in itself.
Yes, but you made the correlation between sin and law.
Yes.
So if we were acting in complete harmony with all of God's laws, from a soul perspective in terms of our intentions, desires and our actions, we would not be sinning.
Yeah, there's no sin.
Yeah, that's an important point, I think.
And most people in the human race believe that's not possible.
Yeah.
So this is another problem.
Yes.
Because there's a belief on earth that goes something along the lines, oh, we're just human. We all make, what we call mistakes, but they're not mistakes of knowledge or anything. They're purposeful choices to do an unloving act, right, many times. But we call them mistakes afterwards, right? And we all justify or have a tendency to justify these things as mistakes because it's a part of human nature. It is not a part of human nature. Mm-hmm. God did not create the first human parents to have this as a part of their nature. Mm. God created the possibility only by giving us the free will. We, humankind, are the ones who created sin in reality, and we, humankind, are going to be the ones who need to destroy it if we're ever going to become perfect.
Mm-hmm. And God's laws are there to guide us to that point. They're always operating every minute, every second to attempt to assist us back to that perfected place.
Yes, so God's laws are redemptive.
Yes.
They are always trying to redeem us from our sin. Mm-hmm. And in fact, if we understand that all of God's laws are redemptive, we would see the loving purpose of every single one of them. Mm. And every single law, the physical right the way through to the soul-based laws, the laws that are the highest laws of the universe, are all redemptive upon the human soul, have redemptive actions upon the human soul to bring us to a state of perfection, to bring us back to the state that we lost because we chose to.
Chose to sin. Yeah.
Because we chose to sin.
Yeah. And, okay, a couple of other clarifiers from what you said earlier. Mm-hmm. You talked about how we in our intro, we talked about the conscience, the fact that we have inside of us a conscience, and most of us, that is not removed from us during our childhood experiences. We have some sense of what's good, bad, right, wrong.
Can I define the conscience?
Yes.
Yeah, so the conscience forms two parts in its operation. Firstly, every single person on this planet is assigned a guide who is in a certain condition of love. That particular guide, whether we are in the condition of love or not, will attempt to communicate to us when we are doing something that's out of harmony with love. So that's the first part of our conscience. Mm-hmm. So we don't even have to be in a good condition to actually have a conscience-based thought. Mm-hmm. The thought comes from a person external to us, helping us see that we're actually taking an action that's out of harmony with love.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Yeah. Number two is we have a natural, because there is a natural desire for perfection in the human race. Unwittingly, most of humankind don't believe that. Mm-hmm. They believe in this other concept, this concept that God created us imperfect and we're all sinners. That's the concept generally that's touted. But the reality is God created us perfect. And there is an inbuilt human desire to be perfect. Mm-hmm. So it also forms part of the conscience.
Yeah.
And this particular part of us, usually in the beginning, whenever we're about to sin, screams at us generally.
Yeah.
And it just depends on how much we suppress those inner workings, along with suppressing the communication that comes from a spirit who's in a loving condition, as to how much we will ignore this voice.
Yeah.
And the voice can be a voice that's outside, coming from outside of us, or an inner voice which is presented to us because of this underlying desire that all humankind has to be perfect at some point.
And you're talking about the conscience being affected by suppression of emotion, which disconnects us from guides and also from this inbuilt desire to be perfect.
Well, I think it disconnects us from the inbuilt desire to be perfect, but it certainly doesn't connect us from our guides. Our guides still have the ability to communicate with us.
Yeah.
And so quite often, even though we might have completely suppressed emotionally this inside desire to be perfect, and we don't even believe it in anymore, we still have conscious thoughts being dropped into our mind from our guide, telling us, no, you're doing something out of harmony of love now.
This is hurting someone.
This is hurting someone or hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Don't you think you should make a different choice?
Yeah.
And of course, whether we hear that is certainly dependent upon a number of factors of how much we want to go ahead and do the wrong thing.
Yes, how much we're justifying the unloving use of our will.
Yes.